point, though, that they have a tough schedule coming up. They got the Rays, and they got to go to Oakland and Seattle.
Yeah.
How many games out for this team do you switch your focus? Do they really want to mortgage that much of the future of this team? 7 games out of a division?
Well, I don't think they're going to be out of it. I don't think that's. I think it's 6 games out or 7 games out at mid-July. This team's not out of it because we know what they can do offensively. Because you know what kind of a lineup you've got. So I don't think they become a seller, and I don't think they become passive. I don't think that's going to be an option here. They're going to be in it, and they're in it now. Unless you believe the New York Yankees are going to run away and hide, and I don't. And again, look at there's a bunch of teams in kind of similar positions to the Toronto Blue Jays record-wise. Look at the Detroit Tigers. Are they out of it? I don't think so. And I think for the same reason you would look at the Tigers and say they're not out of it. Look at the guys they have. You look at the Toronto, the starting, the starting 9 for the Toronto Blue Jays, and you say that these guys are not going to be out of it because of that offense. So, in terms of how much you mortgage for the future, or how much of the future you mortgage, that is a very tricky proposition. We've talked about this a lot. What the Toronto, you accumulate prospects to some degree to trade prospects at a time like this, and everybody right now it is a seller's market. There aren't a lot of teams out of it. So the Johnny Cuetos and the Jeff Samardzes they're going to get a big price for those guys, even as rentals. This is what you pay your general manager to do, which is pull the trigger on a deal, and that is going to be a season changer. That is going to be a season saver, maybe. And I really look. I think this is Alex Anthopoulos' moment. And I don't envy him. I don't want to be sitting there saying, "Am I willing to trade Jeff Hoffman? Am I willing to trade Marcus Stroman? Am I willing to trade?" It's a little easier decision maybe with a Daniel Norris right now or a Miguel Castro. But how deep am I willing to cut to try and take a shot this year?
Hey, here's a question. How much does Alex Anthopoulos' future employment factor into this?
Well, I don't think he's operated like a guy who's managing a team for his job this year, which is to his credit. You can't do that as a GM. You can't even. It's very hard to think in the present as a GM. You're always kind of thinking in the future. They just spent a ton of money on Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Who we're not going to see for 4 years, 5 years. But we don't know who the president of the team is going to be next year. It's entirely possible the president of the team might want his own guy in that job. It would be very hard to get rid of Alex Anthopoulos if this team's in a pennant race or if they make the playoffs. Certainly if they're in the postseason. But I think Alex has understood that for a long time. Probably understood that when they were talking to Dan Duquette over the winter that he was on very thin ice. But I think to his credit, and again, I think it's really the only way to operate. You got to kind of keep your head down and manage the team as though you're going to be there next year and as though you're going to be there 2 years from now. You kind of build the foundation. So I don't think he's going to do something that's rash in order to try and save his job. But that said, I think he understands the imperative to win. This team is built to win now. That's just the truth. Whether he's going to be here next year or not, this team is built to win this year, next year, the year after that.
Steve Run from Sportsnet, our guest, Bautista, he we don't know what was said. Didn't look like it was too much. My opinion is that Jerry Meals tried to become part of that game yesterday. Or did Jose Bautista's reputation earn his ejection in a really critical part of the game yesterday?
Well, I'll take Jose's word for the fact that he...
Actually, speaking of the Blue Jays game yesterday, their final game against Kansas City, I watched that game from start to finish. I kind of got up, do whatever, and I came back during the game and watched and to the point of former Major League down analyst Greg Zahn. You look at the Blue Jays' first half of the season, it was atrocious. It was atrocious, guys. Their pitching, it wasn't par to where they wanted to be, but now they've really gotten their act together since the trades that they did from Oakland. Josh Donaldson to me has a more mature. I know he had a couple of hiccups here and there. I kind of sound like Greg Zahn right now, just analyzing the first half of the Blue Jays season. But ever since then, Josh Donaldson, he has come into Toronto Blue Jays since the trade, and he has been tearing it The home runs, the plays in the outfield, the diving into the stands, going for the foul ball. I'm like, man, John Woodard, they really found their future third baseman / shortstop. I was like, man, this guy can do it all. But you go back to the first half of Toronto Blue Jays. I thought, well, if they would have done something during last year's or this year's free agency, I know they just spent a whole ton of money signed Vladimir Guerrero's kid for a future deal and all that, but now is the baseball All-Star break. I'm thinking Toronto Blue Jays are going to be doing some dealing after the All-Star break. If they get, and I can't say for sure, just after watching the first half of the Toronto Blue Jays, I hope they just trade one of their prospects and their one of their current arms. R.A.T.K. I could be right, I could be right. I think he needs to be let go. I think he needs to be traded. But
it wasn't about ball strike call that he was talking about.
But after watching yesterday's game, when I think it was middle of the eighth in Jose Bautista, he didn't like that strike call, and he argues with the umpire during meetings, and then he gets ejected. What gives the umpires in baseball the right to inject, take out that player, that team's best player? And I give Jose Bautista credit for being injected from kicked out of the game for arguing with the referee. If I was in Jose Bautista's shoes, I would just shut my mouth, get back in the batter's box, do what you're supposed to do, and then walk away from the situation. But Jose Bautista, what he had done, he kept on, he walked away, sent him to the umpire, and he walked back, and he goes back in the batter's box, and he got the old heave-ho from the game. To me,
whether the pitcher came to a full stop, I think Jose Bautista's reputation hurts him sometimes, because he has been very demonstrative in terms of any said stuff about umpires and about the competence or lack of competence of umpires in the past. Umpires have a lot of power in baseball. I think they have too much power, individual power. And I think we've seen it a bunch of times this year where, they became the show. And I think that he and the team were, if I have to just go one way or another here, I'll come down on the side of Jose Bautista, because he may be paying for past sins, but I think on a day like that, I think he's probably being picked on unfairly.
And did it not look like Meals was trying to goad him? He took off his mask, and he was staring at him, and he was waiting. And the very second he got an opportunity to factor into that game, he made that decision to throw him out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not the first time we've seen that with the Toronto Blue Jays this year, and certainly not the first time we've seen it in baseball this year. Umpires looking for a fight. Umpires, the guys who've obviously gotten hot because something has been said to them, they're hearing stuff from the bench, kind of guys with rabbit ears. We've seen that a lot this year. And I've kind of seen them do, we've seen umpires kind of panic in situations emotionally. And that's bad. I think that's something baseball's got to address here. And I know there's a long history with the umpires and the umpires union, and, how much power these guys have and how untouchable they have been. But, you don't want your officials to be the show. You really don't want them to be front and center, and they've been front and center. To my mind, they've been front and center way too much this season.
That guy tried to play Lester about a week ago.
Yeah, they're human beings. know,